Hey YouTube family, how are you guys doing? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another episode of doing experiments in my basement. I just came up with that. There wasn't prior episodes. So the experiment today is just like the title says, does brass equal country? I don't know. I've been playing Telecasters for years and everybody always says, brass saddles, oh, you gotta get brass saddles. And I've always wondered, does it really matter? At the end of the day, going through an amp, through a sound system, does it really matter? Well, we're going to test that theory today. So this is my M-Musi Virgo Fusion. I think I have a video on there a while back about reworking this guitar, and at the end of it, it was like there was nothing to do to it. It was absolutely perfect right out of the box. But this is as far from a country guitar as you're going to get, other than the shape. I would say it doesn't really sound spanky. Like, it doesn't sound like a country guitar. But you know, with playing technique and kind of chicken picking, you can get by. Like, it's not an issue. But I was thinking, man, I wonder if brass equals country. So what if I brassified or countrified this guitar? Keep everything the same strings, and the strings that are on these are DR Dragon skins, 10 to 46, down 2.5 a step. So I'm going to put these back on. Leave, the bridge plate the same, the nut the same, tuners the same, like everything's the same, except install this big brass claw, a set of Music Lily brass saddles, and a huge Music Lily brass block under the trem. So does brass really make a difference at the end of the day? Or is it just the pickup? Right, the famous Tele slanted single coil pickup. Is that really what the country sound is? I don't know. Let's find out. You guys will have to watch me take the strings off, so I'll be back. The last saddle here. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, see, not only does a Tele typically have brass saddles, but it has a hardtail bridge, like it's laying flat on the body. So that would account for some of the sound too. And yeah, I know what you're saying, and I agree to a certain extent. But when I got this guitar, even with the strings on it, the bridge was totally flat to the body. And that's how I left it, because I don't use a trem. So I like even if it has a trem, I like my Teles with the bridge flat to the body. So it is making body contact. I'm going to leave it that way for this test as well. So, okay, saddles are off. You know what? These M-Musi saddles, look at those things. Look at how they're routed for the string. Man, they are really well machined. Super nice saddles. And I don't know how they sell these for the price that they sell them, but they make a lot of brand name guitars out there look bad, I'll tell you. Flat tip screwdriver. An easy way to take the springs off is just slide your screwdriver tip between the tooth on the claw and the spring loop, and you got to apply some pressure so it doesn't pop off, and then just wiggle your screwdriver back and forth like this, and look, the spring will just pop right onto the screwdriver shaft. As easy as that. And then you can just pry out the spring here. So that's it for that. So if you've never seen how a block is installed, it's just installed with 3 screws below your saddles. So unfortunately, you have to take the saddles off, or at least you have to move them forward, because the screws are located between the intonation adjustment screws. So you might be lucky enough if you can get enough forward movement to clear the base of the saddle. You might be lucky enough to pull those screws out and then change your block or whatever, and then put them back in and not have to dismantle everything. But I'm changing the saddles anyway, so yeah, I just popped them right off. These screws they're usually pretty tight, but they're a short screw. See? They're a tiny screw, really short. Make sure you have the right screwdriver bit, because you don't want to strip these. That would suck. And this is the original Musi block, and it's pretty massive. Nice and thick, it's a good weight to it. The Music Lily brass block comes with its own screws. So when you take yours out, if that's the case for you, take your screws out of your original block and put them back in. And that way, you collect some good quality parts for like your next build. And you don't have to go scavenging around for little parts. They're all together at the same place. And the Music Lily brass block, and it's got some weight to it too. It's pretty heavy. But see how it's nicely machined? Even where the string comes out, it's tapered. So the string's not coming out over like a square edge. It's kind of, the string comes out through the block and then there's a nice taper to the front, even when it goes through the bridge plate. So it's kind of nice, man. It's classy. And some of you might be like, well, it makes me nervous because what if I install it wrong? You can't install it wrong. So your 6 string through holes, right? Your strings go through the block like this. And the 6 string through holes have to line up with the 6 string through holes on the bridge plate. And by default, the 3 mounting screws will line up with the 3 holes in the bridge plate. All right. Look at that massive brass block. That's awesome. So before taking the claw out, I'm just going to measure the distance of these screws from the back edge of the body route, and I will install it exactly at the same spot. This one is exactly 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the claw to the inside edge of the body route. All right, just unsoldered this cable. So some of you might be like, oh man, I don't know. If I gotta solder stuff, I'm not really good at soldering. Well, if you can heat something and unsolder it, that's all you need to do with this, because this Music Lily, you don't have to solder it. It comes with a locking nut. You just push the wire through the base here and you lock it down. So Music Lily sends you the big brass block, which is, look how thick that thing is. Awesome. Look at that. They send you that. They send you 2 nice big beefy brass screws, which we'll use. And they send you the Allen key to ground that wire with. I can see the edge of the cable on the other side. I'm just going to tighten it down with this. There. Grounded. Some people don't like to do their own work because it's nerve-wracking. Oh, I'm taking stuff apart. What if I can't put it back together? Look, it's super easy. And if you take this to your local music store or your local guitar tech guy, and he's got to spend an hour on changing these parts that are super easy to do, takes virtually no effort, just a little bit of time, that's $100, right? I don't know how much they charge an hour, but that's probably going to be about $100 that you're going to have to pay him to do something that's super easy to do. And then he hasn't even adjusted your guitar yet, right? He hasn't reset the intonation, reset the action. So that's probably another $50. Save your money, man. Do it yourself. All right, I'm going to reinstall this brass block. Oh, wait. All right, we have one problem. The screw holes don't line up. Never even thought of checking that. So yeah. Oh yeah, these screw holes are a lot narrower. Unfortunately. That's all right. I am just going to fill these holes with a dowel. I'll show you how to do that. And then I'm going to re-drill the new holes and screw that in. No big deal. Got a small little maple dowel here. So these are bigger than the original holes. So I'm going to drill out the holes to fit this dowel. I'll have to figure out what size drill bit it is. But first I want to know how deep to go. So I'm going to take a small drill bit and just slide it in the original hole as deep as it'll go. And put my thumbnail right next to it. And that's it. That's as deep as that dowel is. So I'm going to just double check on the other side. And yeah, it's about the same length. So just going to grab a little piece of tape here, just so I have my length. All right, so that's as much of a dowel as I'm going to need. It's 3/16 of an inch. 3/16 of an inch. So let's check the drill bit. 3/16 of an inch. So I got my 3/16 of an inch drill bit right there. And I'm just going to drill out that hole and put a dowel and some carpenter's glue in there. Let that dry up and then I'll re-drill the new holes. Holding the guitar upside down, that's all I'm doing. Making a mess, but this stuff wipes up really well. And I'm just going to dry this in there. And that's it. So I'm going to give you an angled view here of this massacre. Here, just a sec. I'm going to get a longer extension. There we go. We'll do the other. Just going to put these screws in now. Going to use the same long shaft. Going to reinstall the springs. Now, on this claw, the anchors that hold the spring in place, they are rounded. They're not flat like on a typical claw. So the little screwdriver trick with getting the screwdriver between the peg and the spring loop is not going to work because there's not enough space because these claw pegs are rounded now. So in this case, all you got to do is back these screws out so that I can connect my spring and just loop it around the peg like that. All right, so I was able to do it just by hand and not have to wedge anything in there. And you got to double check that this bridge plate is in proper position. And then I'll do the other two. And there we go, that's what it looks like. Now, it's time for saddles. Music Lily stuff comes with different length screws and different length springs and different length action adjustment screws. So, man, these kits are really nice and they're super cheap. There. Brass saddles are on. I take the original Musi saddles, gonna put them in Music Lily packaging. I'll definitely use this on another guitar when I have to improve the saddles because these are awesome. So lastly, now I have these saddles on, what I'm gonna do, take my measuring tape, I'm gonna measure 25.5 inches on the bottom of the nut to the first saddle. Because I know that that is roughly where that saddle is going to need to be to intonate properly. Perfect. So then, all I'm going to do is lightly stagger the rest of these. So here's how they look. Just need to intonate. Now the saddles, we kind of staggered them by eye before. So let's see how close we are. Can you see that? There's open string. 12 fretted. Look at that. Look at that. It's perfect. So when you measure 25.5 inches and set your first saddle there, you're almost bang on every time. All right, I'm going to tweak these. Be right back. It's done. All intonated. A nice stagger there. Brass saddles. Big brass block. brass claw, and brass screws. So, does brass equal country? Let's find out. Well, there you have it, folks. Does brass equal country? I don't know, but I think it definitely helps. There is a difference, for sure. Here in the room, the notes were punchier and more articulate. I'm not sure that it's coming out precisely enough in the videos for you guys to pick up the difference, but in the room here, there is definitely a difference. Now, the other question is it worth changing all these parts to get a little bit more spank? Well, that's a player's preference decision. You and only you can make that decision. I like it. I think it looks cool. I think that big brass block in the back is just sweet. Clearly, this style of guitar is not your country twang banger style, right? It's definitely not set up for that. This is set up with 2 humbuckers, a trem. It's a rock version of a classic Telecaster. However, I thought it would be good to do the experiment on this thing to see if brass really equals country. The jury's still out. You guys decide and let me know what you think in the comments. Take care. God bless. Keep rocking your 6-string. Doesn't matter what the name says on the headstock. If you like it, it's a good guitar.